Moving on to item C, Brown Act and board policy making. Staff report.
Yes, before we click over to my presentation, I'm going to speak to a document or a law that's called the Brown Act. It's chronicled and laid out in this book. But I was asked to give a brief summary on board policy making and the Brown Act, and so I'm going to go ahead and give a short presentation on those two very important roles. Okay, so the role of the Board of Trustees is very important in every individual community and every individual school district. But at its essence, the board maintains the governance standards of a school district by establishing rules and policies that govern the district. And I like this quote. It says, "The school board member responsibilities are not accompanied through sole members, but through the collection of these representatives on the community that comprise the board." There are 5 major duties that a school board is responsible for. They establish the visions and goals for the school district, and in our district that is expressed through the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan, and the Learning Continuity Plan. Board members must be aware of the policies and laws and regulations that impact the work in the district, but they also oversee the implementation of those policies with the focus on improving work in the schools and work for the district. And with our board, we have a board policy committee who oversee and review board policies and board administrative regulations. And we also have board bylaws that were last year reviewed by the entire board. All BPs and ARs and bylaws are approved by the entire board. The school board hires and evaluates the district superintendent. The school board adopts and maintains an annual budget. And with our board, the budget decisions are aligned with the goals of number 1, the vision of the district. And finally, board members serve as leaders and representatives of the community, and they advocates for the schools and our students. Now, there are rules of engagement that were established in 1953 when the Brown Act was passed, and it's associated with the California Government Code Section 54950. But at its essence, boards must conduct an open and public meeting with the exception of certain limited situations. So our board and all school boards, they hold regular board meetings, and that's associated with a board meeting calendar that's approved every May. We have special board meetings. Those are as needed, and they're very rare in this district. We have one formal board subcommittee, that's the Facilities Committee. And we have multiple board committees that are ad hoc or informal. And those include the District Advisory Committee, the District English Language Advisory Committee, the Education Committee, Policy Committee, Safety and Wellness Committees. So what are the meeting rules? In essence, they have to be open to the public. Agendas must be posted. A 72-hour notice on the posting for formal board business, which is the regular scheduled meetings and the board facilities subcommittee meetings. Any special board meetings have a 24-hour notice, but again, special board meetings are as needed and very rare. The ad hoc or informal board committees are announced at the board meeting and are not required to have a posted agenda, but we also put them in the district calendar. And all the formal meetings, which are the regular board meetings, the special board meetings, and the formal subcommittee meetings, must include public comment. So what are the rules for board members' interaction? There's a number of categories here where there are exceptions to the rules because board members are limited in how they interact, going back to the initial expectations of the Brown Act, which is open board meetings. So in other words, they don't want board meetings happen in a back room somewhere. So in terms of board members for individual contact, board members can have individual contact with other members of the board, but what they can't do is serial advocate about board business, meaning that one board member talks to one person and then another board member and another board member, advocating or trying to pool votes on a particular issue. If a board member speaks to 2 or more board members about board business outside of a board meeting, then it would be a violation of the Brown Act. The next four exceptions are all basically the same, but there are exceptions that are applied to when board members go to a seminar or conference or at another community meeting, such as a Mountain House Community Service District meeting, or they are serving in another legislative body, or if they're at a social or ceremonial occasion. In all of those cases, board members can interact with each other. What they can't do is conduct board business while attending those meetings. And then the final one is the standing committee exception, is that we do have a number of formal and informal committees, and board members serve on those, and we always have two. However, if another board member wants to attend the meeting, they're more than welcome to do so, but they can't do that representing members of that committee or the board. They are simply only an observer. So there are other limitations to the Brown Act, and this goes back to this idea of a serial meeting where somehow, some way, shape, or form, communications are going through where votes or deals are being made. So board members' interactions with staff should be inquiry-based only and not directional. And if staff or teachers reach out to the board members can hear, but at its very basic level, those kind of outreaches will be rolled back through the chain of command. Limitations exist on contacts with constituents, developers, lobbyists, and other constituent stakeholder groups. In essence, board members cannot conduct negotiations or give promises or in any way involve themselves with serial discussions. And again, as I said earlier, contacts of board members are limited to one. If one board member wants to discuss an item, they can, but they can't establish a quorum. They can't have more than one interaction. Again, it would violate the serial meeting issue. A public comment. There are two types of public comments, and those happen tonight. So we have the general public comment at the beginning of the board meeting, and there are also public comments that can be tied to a specific agenda item. At special board meetings, public comment is specific to the agenda item that has been placed, and the board can limit and set rules around public comments, such as individual time. We give 3 minutes per individual. Topic time, we give 20 minutes per topic. And decorum, meaning people have to act appropriately, and inappropriate behavior can shut down a public comment. And then finally, non-agenda item limitations. The board, if someone brings up something in a public comment that is not on the agenda, the board may respond briefly. They can ask clarifying questions, and they can do things like request staff report back or place an item on the agenda for a following meeting. And then finally, closed session is a part of the board responsibilities where the board can speak about things in private, but there are very specific rules associated with that. In closed session, board members can speak about personnel issues, evaluations, labor negotiations, pending litigation, real estate negotiations, and student discipline. All closed sessions are put on the board agenda and are for the public to see, and the public may comment in the appropriate time on the agenda about closed session items during the regular meeting. And that is the end of my overview of board policy making responsibilities and the Brown Act.